Did you know the work you do today will shape your business 60 to 90 days from now? That momentum doesn't stop there. It ripples right into your personal life. So let me ask you, based on what you're doing right now, where are you headed? Will it be the same old thing, different day? Or are you really ready to level up? If you're shouting level up, let's make sure it actually happens. Join me and a crew of powerhouse business owners in my mastermind called Level Up, Your Business, Your Life. This isn't just another meeting. It's your secret weapon to accountability, strategic thinking, and inspiration. We meet monthly to empower each other, take bold action, and crush the goals that really matter. Want to know more? Head to the link in my bio or visit msmelissarose.com/mastermind. It would be my absolute privilege to be part of your journey to the next level. Let's make it happen together. I hope I get to see you in our next cohort of Level Up, Your Business, Your Life. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Brick and Mortar Visibility, where we are talking all about making your business the only option in town. And one of the ways we do that is with our brand. I'm super excited to have guest expert Jim Heininger on the podcast to talk all about rebranding. We are going to dive into some stories and some stats and all the juicy stuff about the process of rebranding or even refreshing your brand. But before we dive in, your PSA, making sure you update that Google Business profile. What do I mean by that? Grab something from your latest social post last week, one maybe that did really well or something evergreen, or maybe you're launching a new product or service in your brick and mortar. Bring that over to your Google Business profile. If your ears just glazed over, yes, I said your ears, you need to grab my Google Business Profile workshop. It's completely free, and I share with you all the bells and whistles to optimize that Google Business Profile so that your business is found first when people Google you. Because when people are Googling you, they are ready to buy. They are ready to take their credit card and hand it to you because they need it, want it, desire it right now. So let's make sure your brick and mortar or your online business is found first. Now I'd like to introduce you to our guest expert, Jim Heininger. He is the rebrand man. He leads the efforts of the Rebranding Experts, which he founded in 2017 after 30 years of business and brand strategy experience for names like P&G, McDonald's, Anheuser-Busch, and others. Rebranding Experts was purposefully designed to be the only agency with the comprehensive services necessary to rebrand organizations. Jim has designed the methodology used by the firm and merged the many disciplines necessary for a successful rebranding project. Jim coaches CEOs through the rebranding process, aligning their executive team and helping to execute complete name changes and new customer promises. He regularly speaks at national conferences and is a frequent contributor to Forbes.com on the topic of rebranding. Without further ado, I am super excited for you all to learn from our guest expert today, Jim Heininger. Are you a brick and mortar business owner that has put your blood, sweat, and tears into creating a storefront that lights you up and serves your clients really well, only to be frustrated that you're the best kept secret in town? If you're not hearing your new clients say, "I found you on Google," then you are in the right place. Welcome. My name is Melissa Rose. I'm a mom, a brick and mortar business owner, and your straight shooting visibility coach. I've cracked the SEO code to becoming the top choice on Google in my industry. And now I'm sharing the secrets on this podcast. Get ready for stories, fail-proof strategies, and practical tips to elevate your brick and mortar presence to the top choice on Google. Let's get real, because we're going to make your business the only option in town. All right, Jim Heininger, thank you so much for being on the Brick and Mortar Visibility Podcast.
Great to be with you, Melissa.
Yes. I'm super excited to talk all about rebranding because our brick and mortar business owners, that's kind of a fun part of business. But before we dive in, I always like to ask people this little softball question, Jim. So what did you want to be when you grew up?
What do I want to be, or what when I was growing up, what did I want to be? I come from 4 generations of ministers, so I had to kind of step away from the family business.
I love it.
Kind of calling. Still wanted to put people on my shoulder and, to raise their voices, but in more of a marketing sense than in a pastoral sense.
Oh my goodness. I love it. Okay. So you had to break away from the family mold of that. So tell us a little bit about your journey to get to where you are right now.
So I grew up in Iowa, actually, and then moved to Chicago, where I live now. Spent about 20 years in the big agency business, working on all sorts of large, blue chip brands, global brands, Procter and Gamble, Motorola, so forth, Wendy's, and then went to McDonald's Corporation on a special assignment to help them through some pretty critical corporate reputation issues that they had to get solved, or it was really going to continue to pound away at their corporate reputation. And we worked through those, and I said, I want to go back to the big agency business. And they said, how about you start your own business and we will support you. We'll give you business for a few years because we want access to you. We're afraid if you go back to a big agency, we won't get access to you. So I did that. And then we started picking up several rebranding assignments along the way. And so about 6 years ago, I spun it off a separate agency that focuses just on rebranding. And we offer a end-to-end total rebranding package for organizations that are wanting to kind of redefine themselves to their customers, differentiate themselves in the marketplace. And we just focus solely on rebranding at this point.
Love it. Okay, so you were working with McDonald's Corporation. That's the ideal. Paying you as a consultant then so that you can start your own business. Oh my gosh. Dream. Okay, well, you have a direct line to God then, because that was the best.
Ronald, at least. So.
Well, that's wonderful. That's a great way to start a business with that's exactly what we would love. Okay, so you had this big corporation, big name. Everybody knows that name. So now you have helped other people. Why and when? Is it a revenue amount? Is it a length of time? It pivot? Like what is it?
And what's interesting is I got into this specialty of rebranding because it was an opportunity to use all of my career experiences, from the marketing, the branding, the corporate communications, PR, digital design, all that kind of stuff. So it really allowed me to put my arms completely around a whole process and design a methodology for organizations to do it. But the majority of organizations that come to us face a decision. It's either a need to rebrand or it's an opportunity that they want to rebrand. Now, a need would be something like an acquisition or a merger where you have to sort through that branding decision. Sometimes they're might have gone through a crisis and they need to get rid of their old brand, or culture, or something has changed in the external environment and they need to update their brand to go forward. But the majority of them are actually in this need bucket, and it's where, their original brand, they've just outgrown it. And they have a very ambitious new strategic growth plans, or want to diversify their products or services, or want to go into different geographic markets. And that original brand just isn't doing it for them anymore. And it's not going to help their future growth. And so it's a point in time where they say, let's double down, let's go back to our brand, let's reconstruct it and launch a new one that we know will carry us forward for years to come. So we just finished up a project for a credit union, kind of in the southwest of the U.S. It was an organization that, credit unions are oftentimes named after the original employer with which they were based. And so they tend to be named, Teachers Association or some company or something like that. But they have to get new members, so they have to broaden out beyond that to be able to grow. And so they needed to leave behind their original name and come up with a new one. Had a very aggressive growth plan, and expansion into other surrounding states in the Southwest. And so they were rebranded as Sunward. And it was a very kind of Southwestern feel to going towards the sun and opportunity and better life for all the members that are a part of it, of their organization. So that's kind of just a recent one. And you can see then how, we stood up a whole new story behind it, new visual identity, new training for employees to be able to represent that new brand, because if you got to make sure that you're presenting a whole new experience for customers than what they had in the past. They're not going to believe you're different just because you have a new name. They're going to believe you're different because the experience that they have with you feels different. There's new service, there's new products, there's new new kind of vibe that they will encounter every time they run into you. And that's important as part of a total rebranding package.
When you said story of the rebrand, what do you mean by that?
So the story kind of comes in two things. First of all, your brand has to have a story behind it. It has to be able to have something that's relevant to the customers and the promise that you're making to your customers. So that's kind of that core brand story. But then the rebranding should have a story of its own. Why are you doing this? What's the value to your customers?
Sure.
How are they going to experience you differently going forward? And that's when you go to launch it, that's what you'll use to kind of create the context of what this new brand promise stands for.
Thank you for that example, because I have a dance studio, and a lot of us dance studio owners will say Susie's School of Dance. And
exactly.
And sometimes that's great, but after maybe 2 or 3 generations, do we still want Susie on the name? Okay, so that makes sense to rebrand there. I have a generic name to my business purposefully. So, and I've been in business for a while. You talk about a refresh versus a rebrand. Can you explain the difference between that, and why would somebody maybe choose one or the other?
Yeah, so a refresh is what we tend to call a visual makeover. Keep the same name, but you come up with a new logo, use of new colors. Maybe if you've got a brick and mortar, operation, you change the interiors or the exterior to kind of give off a new vibe. You're really staying the same organization and promise to customers, but just a visual and exciting kind of new modern look to it all.
Hey coaches, consultants, trainers, influencers, and brick and mortar business owners, this one's for you. If you're ready to simplify your life and scale your business with ease, meet your new business bestie, Simplero. This all-in-one powerhouse has everything you need to run a thriving online education business or seamlessly blend it with your brick and mortar venture. I personally use Simplero for everything. My website, email list, sales page, memberships, courses, products, you name it. It is my go-to tool to keep my business running smoothly and efficiently. And honestly, I don't know how I ever managed without it. The best part, it's ridiculously easy to use. And their back office support, total game changer. If you're tired of juggling a million tools and trying to make them all work together with duct tape, Simplero will completely transform how you do business. Ready to see what the hype is all about? Check out Simplero and my other top tools by grabbing the link in my bio or heading on over to msmelissarose.com/tools. Trust me, your future self will thank you.
A rebranding is at the far end of the scale and is a much more comprehensive effort because you're usually going to change your name, and that name is going to signal a new direction, something that's different than what people experienced in the past. It's really repositioning the organization too, so that if you are offering a new product or a new service than you have in the past, it opens the doors to the people that would buy that product that might not normally consider you if you were that old brand. So it's meant to kind of reposition you in the marketplace so that new customers will come in and new doors will be open for you to support your growth.
I've seen this done really, really well with studio owners specifically, because that's my industry. How long is that process? We as business owners are thinking about it probably years before. When is it necessary to do even a refresh? When is that time that maybe we need to look at that versus another marketing effort?
Yeah. So, a refresh, the visual makeover, oftentimes companies do that, 6, 8, 10 years, just to, present themselves in a new modern way.
Yeah.
You see that you see sports teams who refresh their logos and their colors of their uniforms and all that kind of stuff all the time.
Sure.
Primarily because they want you to come buy new gear.
Yeah.
It has the new logo on it.
Yeah.
But even Pepsi will update their logo, every 10 years or so, just to, make it look more current, because visuals can tend to, they tend to look dated. There's probably no hard trigger on a refresh because it's really a proactive move that you would do to just be able to make some new news to your customers and people you're trying to attract to your business by going through that kind of visual identity change. A rebranding, you're going to feel the need.
Yeah.
You're going to run into roadblocks to grow. You're going to, you're going to say, and just use as an example, if if you have a dance studio, and let's say you want to add yoga, yoga classes to use up the facility, and keep it booked all the time. Well, then you got to add yoga to your kind of your name so that people that are looking for yoga through SEO and the search are going to find it. So now you've got to add that. You've got to broaden out your name a little bit. Now that's a time to maybe say, should we rebrand and come up with a new name for the organization, a whole new positioning? And while you're doing that, think ahead to what might be another service that you might add in the near future.
So good.
What it is. Maybe it's a cycle bar, or something like that. You say, in order to make sure that my physical location is booked 24 hours a day, I need to add other things to it. What might be next, so that you're coming up with your new name and your new brand gives you the elasticity to be able to introduce that next range of services someday, and you don't have to go through the whole process again.
How long does that process take?
Bigger organizations, it can kind of averages about 9 months.
Okay.
But here's the thing that really tends to influence that the most is if you do have a lot of brick and mortar locations, and let's say you've got vehicles that are, branded vehicles that are on the road, or uniforms, but you've got signage that needs to be updated. Those things take a while to redesign and produce and install, and that tends to contribute to the length of time that it takes to do it. So if you're United Airlines and you're rebranding, you have to change every single plane, and you have to change every gate, and anywhere that logo appears, that takes time to implement. And so that stretches out the timeline considerably. So we like to say 9 months, and the majority of 5-6 months of that is all the creative work at determining who that new brand is, coming up with a new logo, visual identity ready to roll. And then you need those several months to kind of get all the work done behind the scenes before you launch it to your customers. So that's where the 9 months tends to fall in.
What size of company are you working with mainly, or who's your target market?
So we tend to work most with what I'm going to describe as small to medium-sized businesses, and that's maybe up to 400 million in revenues. These are organizations that they may have a marketing representative internally, they may have a little bit of a department or some creative services, but that's about it.
Okay.
And they need not only the rebranding expertise that we bring to it, but then the marketing creative juices as well. So we usually supplement whatever they have internally of a person or a department to be able to bring it to launch.
The rise in number of companies rebranding, becoming more mainstream, shorter names. Can you explain that? Yeah,
so we actually kind of geek out on this, and we monitor.
Absolutely. That's why I'm asking.
Organizations who announce a rebranding. So we get alerts every day, of organizations that are rebranding. So we kind of see what the trends are and what's happening and who and why and what the strategy is behind it. The decision to rebrand, I think, used to feel like a much heavier lift to companies and to CEOs primarily than it's become. And it's because people see it happen so frequently that they're getting a little more comfortable. They're getting confident that if you execute it correctly, that you can do it successfully and not have a disruption to your business. So we're seeing it much more frequently these days. And one of the things that's happening from the creative side is the simplification. So a lot of organizations that originally started out with a longer descriptive name are dropping that descriptive language because it kind of boxes them in and going just with the name of the company. So, the ones everybody knows is Dunkin' Donuts. Well, they wanted to be known by more than donuts, so they dropped donuts. Now they're just Dunkin'.
Oh.
So that's an example of how, dropping and shortening names to the key differentiator that they mean to customers as opposed to descriptive language. That's happening all the time now. It used to be Apple Computer Company. It's just Apple to everybody, You know it because of that key distinguishing characteristic.
Huh. I'm thinking my wheels are turning. Can you see the smoke? Wow, I love it. Okay, I want to hear a horror story and a success story.
So I think the horror stories when there's a lot of them out there. And what's interesting is the ones that we kind of have tracked tend to be in the UK, where they actually renamed the postal system in the UK. That was kind of a flop. There was a big delivery service that rebranded, kind of like a FedEx over there, flopped. And it was probably in the execution of it and making sure they took the time to build support for it. But they found themselves having to kind of revert back. The biggest challenge tends to be leadership within the organization. And they're embracing it and understanding and committing, changing up the organization, and the name and the culture and the promise that it has to customers and so forth. So where we run into hazards is when the leadership thinks they know more than we do. And they start thinking they're calling the shots on the rebranding, and we'll kind of very say, no, trust us. We've been through this so many times. We have the methodology down. We're going to go by it step by step, because you need to make these decisions, because later you're going to have to do something that needs that decision to ground it. They think they can leap right over all that, find themselves ready to go to market, and oops, they hadn't done critical things that we were advised them to do, and we're going to now put it at risk. And we've been known to actually resign a client.
Yeah.
If we get to a point, you're putting this at risk. You're putting it at jeopardy. We don't want to see you fail. And so we're going to step out of this situation and you can take it from here if you want, the way you think you want to do it. But keep in mind the following things, or otherwise you're going to be creating trouble for yourself. Sometimes they do, and we kind of in the back of our heads say, we told you so. Shouldn't have done that.
And isn't that a great reminder for us all? We think we know better at times. And the key when we hire somebody is they are the expert, and to trust them.
We built a methodology that represents all the learning. So we continue to update the methodology as we go through different kinds of experiences as well, too. Here's something you need to think about at this point in the process.
Yeah.
Why hire somebody to do that and then not take advantage of their insight? I do have one success story it's a little controversial, but Facebook, a few years back now, was under a lot of pressure, sessions on Capitol Hill about its safety precautions and so forth. They, as a company, were wanting to get into this, virtual reality, kind of space and create the metaverse. And they rebranded the corporate name to be Meta, and they made Facebook a product. And everybody went crazy and saying, is my Facebook going to change and so forth? No. Facebook's going to remain the same. But Meta opens the door to that whole new growth strategy that they had of wanting to get into virtual reality. It really was a smart strategic move, what they did, because if you're going to invest millions or billions in a new growth category, you want to be successful from the start, and you don't want the baggage that Facebook has dragging you down. So let the baggage remain with Facebook and the criticism of it, but create a whole new brand that now you can build your own metaverse, and you can coin your own name for it and so forth, be able to charge ahead and get the leadership role that they did in that. Now, people find it controversial because they'll say, well, they haven't been all that successful. Yeah, but they wouldn't have been successful if they had tried to do under the name Facebook. And that's pretty common. That's happening more and more as corporations are wanting, they're in their desire to grow, are needing to kind of create new businesses and new stories. And it's different enough than the original brand that they need to let it go. Come up with a new one, separate them out to be different kind of products or services.
Think of that shop downtown. That client, those are my people, the chiropractors, the physical therapists, the retail, like anything else you want to say to them.
And as you said earlier, too, it was very common when a lot of people opened their businesses that they either named it after themselves or they used a very descriptive name that isn't all that differentiating from other, chiropractors down the street. And a rebrand would be an opportunity to kind of level you up above all the competition, to come up with a name or a brand that's about the promise of what you deliver, the outcome of what somebody can experience with you, and then go down the journey of a rebrand. It's one of the reasons, like if you think of dentists, dentists always used to be Dr. Ogeson, DDS. That's who I went to as a kid. Now, as there's more of these kind of corporate dental practices, whether it's a business, it's not an individual, it's a business, they're going things like magnificent smile, or things that are lead to the outcome of what an experience with them is going to be. That's, people want a magnificent smile. They don't want Dr. Ogeson DDS.
Yeah.
And so that's a good example of how those kind of corporate practices now are using a branding strategy to differentiate themselves from the solo shop owner.
That was a great example. Thank you. When the time comes, when we all have plenty of money to go, oh, yay, let's rebrand. Or I need to spend more money in my business. Let's rebrand. It's so fun because when you do see it done, and a lot of times it's a refresh, somebody's done really well and it just goes, ooh, I want to walk in there. It makes you want to just go in when it's done really well. It's not just the logo. Like you said, it trickles down to everything. If you have the cars, if you have the logo, if you have the merch, if you have the colors in the facility, the letterhead, all the stuff. But super fun to think about and dream about and consider why, like how strategically will this provide more value for everybody, more impact. Where can people learn more about you? Where do you want people to go find you?
So look us up at rebrandingexperts.com. Sign up for our newsletter. We send out every month with all sorts of best practices on how to rebrand successfully. And then I would probably say after that, LinkedIn is where you'll find us the most. I write for Forbes.com about every month, share the stories there, kind of all sorts of different aspects of the rebranding process.
Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you for your time and sharing and educating us a little bit on the process and what we can expect when that time is right for us. So thank you.
Great to be with you.
Very good. Awesome, everybody. I hope you got something out of this. Check Jim out on LinkedIn and grab his newsletter if that's of interest to you. And we appreciate you taking the time to listen and invest in your business. With that said, everybody have a great week, and we will see you here same time, same place next week. Peace. Bye-bye.